Hello guys, this is the Gaming Revolution here and welcome back to an all new Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War Zombies video. Today we're talking about the infamous Zombies Chronicles 2, this thing that pretty much everyone in the Zombies community has made about 1 million videos on. I know I have personally, but today I want to go over a recent Reddit post by Vincent Danger in which he has compiled a bunch of evidence towards a potential Zombies Chronicles 2. And by this we are obviously referring to the leftover Victis Maps, TranZit, Die Maschine, and Buried, literally the only maps that have never been remade or remastered prior to Black Ops Cold War. And yeah, I've been flip-flopping a lot, and I mean a lot. I remember I definitely thought we would be seeing these maps in Black Ops 4, and they were planned at one point. All of the evidence is literally there inside of Blackout and the rest of the game, considering we have the entirety of Buried already pretty much made in that game, and we have the TranZit Diner and Ted and a bunch of other assets. Blackout really was the equivalent of Revelations to the original Zombies Chronicles, in which it would be a way for them to work on two projects at once. And a lot of people have been hoping that maybe these maps have been saved for Black Ops Cold War. I mean, prior to release, I was very much convinced that we would be seeing TranZit at some point, but unfortunately we haven't seen it just yet. I do think these maps will eventually come, whether they are in this game or a future game. They're bound to happen at some point. There's a lot of hype there. Someone even made a custom map on Black Ops 3 on TranZit, and the video literally has over 600,000 views, and that was only posted a couple weeks ago, so that just proves that the community definitely would want to see a TranZit remake. Even though a lot of people didn't like the original TranZit, there is obviously a lot of potential there if they were to remake it and do it right this time. Anyways, I'll talk about that more in a second, but first of all, this video has been kindly sponsored by Kung Fu Jesus. This is a brand new story-driven RPG brawler now available on Steam and is also planned to release on both current and next generation consoles in the near future. Mayhem has arrived in Kung Fu Jesus' neighborhood and it is time to punch it in the face. Featuring trippy visuals, a 2.5D beat 'em up gameplay style with combos and grappling moves, and a total of 3 story arcs. Kung Fu Jesus will leave a lasting impression on gamers looking for an original, unconventional gameplay style. Unlock more combos and special abilities as you progress. Players will enter the world of Kung Fu Jesus, where they will quickly start to see things from the point of view of a schizophrenic facing his own mental illness with his fists. Going deeper and deeper into an alternative reality, Kung Fu Jesus soon finds out that everything he's read and seen, from the Bible and David Icke to Carlos Castaneda and John Carpenter's They Live, turns out to be true. Kung Fu Jesus boasts an original soundtrack by Craig Snape, who is also the leader developer, the founder of Celestial Gold Studios, and a talented musician himself. Multifaceted. This is great news since a full playthrough can take upwards of 60 hours, including mini-games and side missions unique to each arc. The diverse, immersive soundtrack helps keep you entertained and engaged throughout. In Craig's own words, "We've created a whole universe for Kung Fu Jesus. It's a massive game for indie standards and something I've poured my heart and soul into for more than 4 years at this point. There are so many interesting characters and locations in the game, all fully realized with psychedelic visuals, music, and sound effects unlike anything else out there. The key features of this game include fighting your way to the truth, beat 'em up style, pick up and use various weapons throughout the game, experience reality from Kung Fu Jesus' point of view through a story-driven campaign, try your hand at several mini-games, unlock powerful combos and special attacks, level up your character, and uncover 3 different alternative endings." Like I said earlier, Kung Fu Jesus is now available on Steam for $12.74, a 15% discount that ends on June 3rd, so be fast. Anyways, bringing it back to the subject of this video, discussing a potential Zombies Chronicles 2. In my own personal opinion, I don't think we're going to see the Victis Maps, as controversial as that sounds, in Black Ops Cold War. And the only reason as to why I say this is because I don't think we're going to be seeing new Zombies maps in 2022, because there's been a recent rumor floating around that World War II Vanguard will be featuring a Zombies mode and Treyarch will be helping out Sledgehammer Games in making that, and it's probably going to be a prequel to Cold War Zombies, so it doesn't make much sense for Treyarch to be releasing Zombies maps to basically 2 games at the exact same time. Like I said earlier, I've been flip-flopping since release, one second I'm like, I really think we're going to be seeing the Victis maps coming to the game. The next second I think we won't be seeing them. I did make a video months and months ago saying that I don't think these maps are coming, and then a week later, the leaker known as Tom Henderson or Long Sensation said that these maps are apparently still planned. So then I made another video saying I'm kind of 50-50, but right now I'm about 70% convinced that they won't be coming, and about 30% of me has hope that they might be coming. But if they are going to be coming, I think that they're probably going to have to release before the end of Season 6, because I don't think they're going to be releasing them next year in 2022 if these rumours about Treyarch helping out World War II Vanguard are indeed correct. Granted, that is just a rumour and it could be incorrect, but Charlie Intel did report on it, and typically they only report on proper information, at least if Keshav writes the article. And if Treyarch were planning on releasing these maps this year, then why is there massive content droughts? It's been almost half a year in between the release of Firebase C and the next survival map set in Berlin that's going to be releasing in Season 4 Reloaded. If the Victis maps are also planned, you would think that we would be getting new survival maps more regularly. Now, a lot of people do think that the TranZit maps, the Victis maps, are going to be coming to Outbreak instead, and I think there's a huge possibility, especially because of the fact that they have the Tempests in Outbreak, which are essentially the Dark Aether version of the Avogadro. It's literally identical to the Avogadro from Alpha Omega. It even has the exact same heart. And the thing that doesn't make much sense to me is that Treyarch chose to kill off Primus and Ultimus. They are dead, they are never returning. The only character that we're going to be seeing returning is Eddie, the new incarnation of Richtofen, but other than that, we're not going to be seeing those characters return at all. But they chose to instead leave Victis open-ended, as they did get sent into the Dark Aether. So technically Victis can return at some point, but they just won't be the Victis we know. Instead, they're probably going to be some sort of Dark Aether corrupted version. They're probably mutated into some sort of monster similar to Order / the Elder Gods. But it is interesting that Treyarch chose to leave it open-ended with Victis. That really does make me think they're going to return at some point. I just don't know whether they're going to be in Black Ops Cold War, because like I said, I just don't think they're going to be releasing in 2022, and if they're going to be releasing this year, why haven't we been seeing more regular maps? Unless they will be coming to Outbreak and it's just going to be some sort of big Outbreak updates that potentially releases. Maybe in the final DLC, DLC 4, the map after Berlin, if the Accursed One escapes from the Dark Aether and all of the other weird monsters from the Dark Aether, maybe Victis could escape too, and then that leads up to a bonus handful of maps being the Victis maps. And I don't know, I really would love to see the Victis maps as both survival maps but also as Outbreak maps, because TranZit was originally supposed to be a big open world experience, but due to hardware limitations it essentially got limited a lot. So essentially TranZit was Treyarch's first attempt at open world zombies that eventually evolved into Outbreak, so it would make sense to see, you know, TranZit, Die, Rise and Buried in Outbreak, maybe as a separate playlist to the Euro Mountains maps, and you just teleport between each of those locations. I don't really know how that would work though, because TranZit is really open, so that makes sense, but maybe you could teleport between each of the locations on TranZit, but then Die Rise is just way too condensed. That wouldn't really work well in Outbreak. Maybe Buried would if they opened it up and you could explore on top of the land as well, and not just in the underground town. Anyways, let's go over this Reddit article for all of the evidence. So on Gullover in Outbreak, there is actually a candy bowl that's the exact same model from Buried. People have been talking about this for a while, and like I said earlier, we have the Tempests, which are essentially Dark Aether Avogadros, and Treyarch did say in an interview with Codename Pizza that all of the new enemy types in Outbreak play a role to the storyline and they're there for a reason. Next up, like I mentioned, Victis are still within the Dark Aether, so they could escape, as the Nazis are going to be escaping from the Dark Aether, and also the Accursed One and all of that stuff. Victis could come out too. Although, like I said, I don't think Victis are going to be coming back in the way that we know them. They're probably mutated into some sort of weird monster. The next thing he mentions is that in the Dragon side mission where you feed zombies, the zombies that go into the circle have blue eyes, similar to the blue eyes when Richtofen was in control. I don't think this is really evidence at all. He says, you know, it's a waste of resources to change the color. I think it literally just requires clicking a button to change the color, so I don't think that's really evidence there. But we do know that Eddie is going to be returning to the game, maybe within this next Berlin Zombies map. People have speculated he could be the director at Requiem, and maybe Eddie could get in control of the zombies again, but yeah, I don't know. The next thing he mentions is that Outbreak matches the original concept / idea of TranZit, and yeah, it kind of does, because they did initially plan for you to be able to teleport from each of the different locations on Green Run. He then mentions how according to to sources, the Victis Maps were planned to release in Black Ops 4, and that was actually the case. The Black Ops Pass was originally supposed to be Chaos only, there was supposed to be 2 more Chaos maps, and they ended up getting cancelled. The initial description on the PlayStation Store even mentioned how all of the maps would be exploring Scarlet and the crew, but then due to Chaos not holding up very well for the community, Treyarch then put Tag der Toten and Alpha Omega in the Black Ops Pass, and the second season pass was cancelled. That was supposed to be just Aether content, featuring the rest of the Aether maps that were not remade yet, all of the Victis maps including Tag der Toten and Alpha Omega. The next thing he mentions is that faint lava noises can be heard on Die Maschine, and it's not an audio bug. I don't know what this is about. This is probably just reused audio and isn't hinting at anything though, but I'll let you listen to it. He also mentions how Fishing by the Docks can play some music directly from Buried. I think this is a lot more convincing than the lava noise, but yeah, it could just be a little Easter egg reference. It doesn't necessarily mean that much. The next thing he mentions is that on Ruka in Outbreak, if you go near the radio tower, it plays We All Fall Down from Die Rise. He also mentions some Die Rise music can also be heard in the same part of Alpine. But yeah, I don't think that this audio necessarily confirms these maps. They're probably just reused audio, but one thing I do want to mention is that Jason Blundell did say in an interview during Black Ops 4's life cycle that Grief was almost ready to release. I'll play that for you right now.
So how did you guys come up with the rush idea? You were just playing zombies normally, like, what if we just like turn it up to 12?
Well, I mean, so there was a lot of calls in the community for Grief, and we've not forgotten about Grief. But I'd also stated that I wouldn't go back to Grief until I was really happy with it, which is close.
Right.
It's close. But
That's exciting.
I wanted to just kind of go back to the beginning and just make a mode which was specifically made for co-op players and give a different kind of tempo and something that wasn't about just sticking it to the guy, but has this kind of friendly competition. And so that was the kind of inspiration for Rush. And I feel like it builds. It's one of these game modes where when you're playing at first you're like, yeah, it's all fine, and then the kind of competition just starts building as you're seeing your name go up or your name going down.
Right.
And then people start stealing your points or your power-ups just in front of you.
Oh, did I just miss that?
That competition just starts to get more and more intense as time goes on.
So do you think there's any potential for more game modes being thrown into Black Ops?
Absolutely. It's not even a potential, it's actually already being developed.
In the works?
Yes.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Interesting. Is that
We-
exclusive?
Fingers crossed on Grief.
We actually had a couple of modes that we chose not to put in on day one because we just thought it was too much. Which I've never been in that position
What
before.
a good problem to have, right?
What an excellent
Hey,
problem
we
to
have too much content.
Yeah.
Like,
But then everybody at home's like, oh, come on, Jason.
Yeah.
You should have gave it to
what,
us.
more content?
I
It's
think
like
there's
4 maps,
there's a
2
danger
new
of
game
being
modes,
too overwhelming.
customization. It's not enough. Never. You can.
I
can't
honestly
please
think there's a
everybody.
danger of that too much on day one. You know,
Too much info or too much?
just too much everything. You
It can be
know,
overwhelming.
absolutely.
For sure.
And I think the community really responds to, let them kind of get their feet.
And then Grief never ended up releasing, so I wonder if Grief was supposed to release with these Victis maps, but then they never ended up releasing and they got cancelled because Treyarch were forced to step in and work on Black Ops Cold War that Raven Software and Sledgehammer Games were supposed to be heading. And a couple other things I want to mention is we have the fast travel systems on Die Maschine, and that's very similar to the portals on TranZit, and also the wonder weapon, the DIE, is very similar to the jet gun. It's very similar. It's a much better version of it, basically. So yeah, let me know in the comment section down below, do you think that the Victis maps are still coming? I personally am, convinced that I just don't think they are. I think, as I was saying earlier, about 70% of me thinks they aren't coming, about 30% of me is holding on to hope. I do think they're going to come at some point, I just don't know whether it's going to be in this game. They were being worked on in the past in Black Ops 4, I just don't know how these maps are going to fit into the Black Ops Cold War Zombie storyline, and when they're going to release, because it doesn't make sense to release next next year when Treyarch are apparently helping out with World War II Vanguard, and if they are going to be releasing this year, then Treyarch need to hurry up, and you would think that we would have seen more Zombies maps by now if we still have the Victis maps to fit in, because we still have 3 seasons left, and we have a bunch more Outbreak maps left to release from the Euro Mountains. We also have 2 more survival maps, so where do these Victis maps fit in? They don't really fit in, because I'm assuming that the final survival map is probably going to be Season 5, but most likely Season 6. So yeah, where do these Victis maps fit in, unless it's just a big surprise, but I just don't see that being the case. Anyways, this is all just my opinion though. You can disagree, let me know as I was saying in the comment section. Anyways, thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not here for the latest and greatest Call of Duty news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.